Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coleman Reports Fraud Friday. I'm your host, Mike Geske, and as always, we have a great fraud story for you. Today, Bob Coleman, Lance Sexton, and Delaney Sexton discuss how the lender known as Kabbage is under investigation in multiple states for PPP loan fraud. Enjoy.
All right, I want to talk about what's going on with Kabbage. Lance, set it up. You've read this article, and the first thing I want to address is let's go back and do a little history lesson. When lenders were tasked or given the responsibility of dispersing PPP loans, there were very specific guidelines that they had to do. What were they?
Well, PPP had what we all know as the interim final rule, and it talked about what you had to do to originate and approve a PPP loan. And really important language in that interim final rule was the fact that a lender could rely on borrower's certifications in the review and approval process. So a borrower completes the SBA Form 2483. They provide, in 2020, they actually had to provide some supporting documentation. And they did as well in 2021, but it was less information. But they provide the supporting information and they check the boxes on the application properly, sign it. That's a borrower certification. So if they answer the questions correctly and provide the required information, the financial institution could then rely on the borrower certification that information is correct in determining eligibility.
My concern is this sentence. First of all, you understand the bias of the article, but it says, quote, hundreds of borrowers have been prosecuted for submitting fraudulent PPP applications, but few lenders have been held accountable for their role in approving these fraudulent loans. Well, what accountability is there, Lance?
Well, again, my concern in comments like that, the PPP loan program was designed to get a significant number of loans and assistance out to a significant number of small businesses. And there was a vast difference between 2020 and 2021, guys. 2020, there were more banks and non-bank lenders involved in 2020 who did a strong job of underwriting and vetting out PPP loans before they did them. 2021, on the other hand, was a different story. Congress, our president, the Treasury, they were all saying push, 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 push. We need to get more loans out to more individuals. We need to get more loans out to underserved markets. And as a result, Kabbage was one of the first so-called fintech type companies that SBA signed on, but then they signed on others. But they had to find ways to get the money out quickly.
We've had Senator Rubio on, and directly he said, hey, this was a crisis of epic proportions. And he was alluding to potentially civil unrest if the government didn't step up to help America. And
well, the other thing about the article that I find interesting, Bob, is they have a PPP borrower who has committed fraud, has lied on their application, has provided false documentation, allegedly. Thank you, Delaney. I wouldn't say that if I had not heard you say that, but has provided false information, has lied on their application, and they flipped the script probably to get a lighter sentence by saying, hey, this process allowed me to do that. Again, I'm pro-banker, pro-financial institution, obviously, but the rules said that we could rely on borrower certification. And if the borrower lies, Bob, it's on the borrower.
The filing came amid an effort by Kabbage to fend off a subpoena from federal prosecutors to testify in a PPP loan fraud case, saying, hey, we don't want to do this because the information could be used against us and could be an existential threat to Kabbage, Delaney. But there's still going to be the trial starting August 15th. What do we know about that, Delaney?
Well, so of course, like you said, they did not want to be involved in this due to their other two investigations. They've been going on for over a year. I love this quote from Ben Curtis, a former assistant chief of the Criminal Division Fraud Section at the Department of Justice. Anytime you have two U.S. attorneys' offices that have separately drawn the same inferences based on evidence that reached them from independent sources, it's not a really good sign.
Lance, I think is that a legal terminology, Lance? A really good, not a good sign?
That is high level. When you're in your second year of law school, Bob, they break that up. So.
Yeah, I think that's day one. Not a really good sign. Anyway. Delaney, I'm going to ask you a question you can't answer because we don't know the answer, but this is code, and we're going to try to figure it out. So back to the original question is, what is Kabbage under investigation for? And, quote, the company self-reported in their filings that the East Texas Justice Department attorney there is investigating the adequacy of Kabbage's fraud and anti-money laundering controls in the same time frame. What does that mean, Delaney? I know you don't know the answer. I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you're throwing. All I can assume is that they were allegedly not doing the proper checks, letting borrowers slip by who probably did not have all the adequate.
Yeah,
that's a broad statement, Lance, and I assume we're going to get more and more information. But what is your first take on that?
Well, my big point in this, and again, guys, I'm not trying to get the Kabbage flag and wave it in the air, but I've even heard SBA people say this. Regulations and rules related to PPP with SBA, it's like they're flying a plane and trying to repair the plane or build the plane as they're flying it.
Yeah, trying to get how to land it after it's up in the air. Yeah,
we had change after change after change that we had to deal with in the PPP loan program. Another interesting example, it's like the prosecutors and SBA are trying to push it off on a lender, but one great example, there are multiple instances in PPP lending where a borrower got more than 2 PPP loans. And in those circumstances, they want to push back to the lender and say, hey, how could they get 3 PPP loans? Well, I have the same question for SBA and everyone else. How could you approve in your system 3 PPP loans to the same borrower? I don't know.
Well, I'm not and now we normally don't like to speculate, but now we're down the rabbit hole, so might as well. Look, from what I understand of this, Lance, is the PPP program gave lenders liability from a lot of, shielded them from liability for this. And that's why it's interesting that they're not talking about the PPP regulations. They're talking about broader money laundering and things like that, as opposed to activities related to PPP loan fraud. So they're going about it through a back door. So anyway, fascinating case. Well, we're going to follow this very, very closely, obviously, because the problem is, Lance, what they do with this lender can potentially boil over to everyone else.
Well, I'm not picking on my friends at SBA. Of course, I work there, and I know they do a great job. But I just think when you have, we're starting to get the fraud stories, and everybody's wanting to point a finger at somebody. And it was a process of getting a significant amount of money into small business owners' hands quickly. So there was going to be some fraud.
I knew my history degree would come into play one day, but hey, we cannot forget the context that this was only 2 years ago of what was happening. And it was major, major crisis. And we were all concerned what was going on and how quickly we forget. But the goal was, let's get the money out the door. And as you said, we can build the landing gear while the plane's up in the air. Anyway, final thought, Delaney, what's your take on all this, and where's your reporting going to take us in the future?
I'm definitely going to be following this very closely. It's quite interesting. There's a number of different legal actions going on, even beyond what we talked about. So I would recommend people read the article and learn themselves.
Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Reports Fraud Friday. If you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and click that bell icon to receive notifications on our latest episodes. Thank you for joining us today for Fraud Friday and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Thank you.